the last of its kind. The vast expanse of space held many wonders, but few as tragic as the tale of the Lumina. Once a thriving species known throughout the galaxy for their extraordinary empathic abilities, the Lumina now teetered on the brink of extinction. Their homeworld Elysium lay in ruins, a casualty of a war they never chose to join. Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon stared at the holographic display, her brow furrowed in concentration. The ship had picked up a faint distress signal emanating from a system long abandoned after the recent galactic conflict. "What do you think?" "XO," Sarah asked, turning to her second-in-command, Commander Raj Patel. Raj stroked his beard thoughtfully. "It's outside our designated search grid, Captain. Protocol suggests we report it and move on." Sarah nodded, acknowledging the regulation, but something tugged at her conscience. "And yet, we're the closest ship. If someone's alive down there." "The chances are slim," interjected Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the ship's xenobiologist. "According to our records, that system was home to the Lumina. The Galactic Council declared them extinct months ago." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. The Lumina's fate was a dark chapter in recent history, a peaceful race, caught in the crossfire of warring factions, abandoned by those who should have protected them. Sarah's jaw tightened. "Prepare a landing party. We're going to investigate." As the Horizon entered the planet's atmosphere, the crew couldn't help but gasp at the devastation below. Once majestic crystal spires lay shattered, their iridescent shards scattered across the landscape like fallen stars. Lush forests had been reduced to fields of ash, and the great oceans that once teemed with life now lay still and dark. The landing shuttle touched down in what appeared to be the remains of a city center. Sarah led her team out, their environmental suits protecting them from the toxic atmosphere, a lingering reminder of the weapons used in the planet's destruction. "Fan out," Sarah ordered. "Look for any signs of survivors, but stay alert. We don't know what's still active down here." For hours, they searched through the ruins, finding only echoes of a lost civilization. Art, technology, and knowledge, all lost in the senseless destruction. As hope began to fade, a faint signal caught their attention. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Zora Okonko, the team's tech specialist. "I'm picking up some kind of energy signature. It's weak, but it's there." Following the signal, they made their way to a partially collapsed structure. As they cleared away the debris, a soft glow emanated from within. Sarah's heart raced as she peered inside. There, curled up in what looked like a stasis pod, was a small creature no larger than a house cat. Its fur shimmered with patterns of starlight, shifting colors even in the dim light. Large, luminous eyes flickered open, filled with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. It's a Lumina," Dr. Tanaka whispered in awe. "A juvenile, by the looks of it. I thought they were all gone." As Sarah reached out, she felt a gentle brush against her mind, a tendril of emotion so pure and raw that it brought tears to her eyes. Fear, loneliness, and a spark of hope intertwined, telling a story of unimaginable loss and the will to survive. "Hello, little one," Sarah said softly, her voice choked with emotion. "You're safe now. We're here to help." The tiny Lumina uncurled slightly, its gaze fixed on Sarah. Another wave of emotion washed over her, gratitude mixed with lingering terror. "How did it survive?" Raj asked, his usual stoic demeanor cracking in the face of this miracle. Dr. Tanaka examined the pod. "This is incredible. It seems to be a type of emergency stasis technology. It must have activated during the attack, preserving the child while everything around it was destroyed." As they carefully extracted the young Lumina from the pod, Sarah couldn't help but think of the Galactic Council's cold dismissal of this species. How many others had been abandoned, deemed unworthy of saving in the brutal calculus of war. Back on the Horizon, the crew worked tirelessly to care for their unexpected passenger. Dr. Tanaka set up a special quarantine unit, mindful of the unique biology of their charge. It's remarkable, she reported to Sarah hours later. Despite everything it's been through, the little one is physically stable. But emotionally, Captain, I've never encountered anything like this. The empathic abilities of the Lumina are off the charts. It's projecting its feelings so strongly that even I can sense them, and I'm not exactly known for my emotional sensitivity. Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. What are our options, Doctor? Officially, we should report this to the Galactic Council. They have protocols for dealing with endangered species. Dr. Tanaka's face darkened. But given how they've handled the Lumina situation so far, they'd dissect the poor thing in the name of science. Raj finished, his voice hard. Sarah looked through the quarantine field at the small figure curled up on a bed of soft blankets. The Lumina kitten, for lack of a better term, gazed back at her with those impossibly deep eyes. Another wave of emotion swept over her, trust, mixed with a question. What would happen now? In that moment, Sarah knew she couldn't abandon this child as the rest of the galaxy had abandoned its people. We're not handing it over to the Council, she declared. Not now, not ever. Captain, Raj cautioned, that's dangerously close to treason. Sarah met his gaze steadily. Sometimes, Commander, doing the right thing means standing against the tide. Humanity has a long history of sheltering refugees, of standing up for those who can't defend themselves. I won't let this child be another casualty of political expedience. She turned to address the entire medical bay. As of this moment, our mission parameters have changed. We are now the guardians of quite possibly the last Lumina in existence. I know I'm asking a lot, but I believe we have a moral obligation to protect this child, and if we can, to find it a new home. The crew exchanged glances, a mixture of uncertainty and resolve on their faces. It was Zora who broke the silence. Well, I've always wanted to be part of a daring space adventure. Looks like I've got my wish. A ripple of nervous laughter spread through the room, breaking the tension. One by one, the crew nodded their agreement. They had come to space to explore, to learn, to push the boundaries of human understanding. What better way to honor that mission than to save a species on the brink of extinction? As the horizon broke orbit, leaving the ghostly remains of Elysium behind, Sarah felt a small surge of emotion that wasn't her own, a blend of sorrow for what was lost and hope for what might yet be. She looked down at the small bundle in Dr. Tanaka's arms, its fur now shimmering with streaks of vibrant blue. "Welcome to the crew, little one," she said softly. "Let's go find you a new home." The stars stretched into lines as the horizon jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying with it the last legacy of a fallen civilization, and the promise of a future where compassion knew no boundaries, not even among the stars. A bridge between worlds. The soft hum of the horizon's engines provided a soothing backdrop as Dr. Yuki Tanaka carefully examined the Lumina kitten. 2 weeks had passed since their daring rescue, and while the little alien was physically recovering, the emotional scars ran deep. "How's our guest doing, Doc?" Captain Sarah Chen asked, entering the medbay. Dr. Tanaka's usually stern expression softened as she looked at the shimmering creature. "Physically, she's improving. I've determined it's female, by the way. But her emotional state..." The doctor trailed off, shaking her head. Sarah understood. Everyone on the ship had felt the waves of grief and loneliness emanating from the kitten. It was a constant reminder of the trauma she had endured. "Have we made any progress in communication?" Sarah asked. "Some," Yuki replied. "While she can't speak, her empathic abilities are extraordinary. Watch this." The doctor held up a small red ball. Immediately, the kitten's ears perked up, and Sarah felt a surge of curiosity and excitement that wasn't her own. "Amazing," Sarah breathed. "It's like feeling her thoughts." Yuki nodded. "Exactly. But it goes beyond simple emotions. Look at this." She showed Sarah a tablet with complex mathematical equations. As the kitten gazed at the screen, both women felt a sense of understanding. And then, correction. The numbers on the screen began to shift and rearrange themselves, solving a problem that would have taken the ship's computer hours to process. Did she just, Sarah gaped, solve a quantum mechanics problem that stumped our best scientists for years? Yes, she did, Yuki confirmed, her voice filled with awe. Captain, the Lumina weren't just empaths. They were mental powerhouses. This little one, even as a child, has cognitive abilities that far surpass our own. The implications were staggering. No wonder some had seen the Lumina as a threat. Such power, in the wrong hands, could reshape the galaxy. A soft trill brought their attention back to the kitten. She had moved to the edge of her enclosure, reaching out with one shimmering paw. Her fur rippled with hues of green and gold, reflecting her curiosity. Sarah felt a gentle query brush her mind. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and let the kitten's paw touch her hand. The connection was instant and overwhelming. Images flashed through Sarah's mind. Crystal cities gleaming under twin suns, vast libraries of knowledge stored in patterns of light, and a society built on harmony and mutual understanding. But then came darkness, fire, and the terrifying silence of a world going quiet. Sarah gasped, stumbling back. Tears streamed down her face as the weight of the kitten's loss crashed over her. Captain, Yuki steadied her, concern etched on her face. I'm all right, Sarah managed, wiping her eyes. I saw her world, Yuki. I felt what she felt. We can't let her be the last. We have to find a way to help her, to preserve what's left of her people's legacy. As if understanding, the kitten let out a soft, musical sound. A feeling of gratitude washed over them, tinged with a newfound sense of hope. Over the next few days, the entire crew worked tirelessly to build a stronger connection with their alien guest. Zara Okonkwo, the tech specialist, developed a neural interface that helped translate the kitten's empathic projections into more coherent thoughts. It's not perfect, Zara explained during a crew briefing, but it's helping us understand her better. She's incredibly intelligent, absorbing information at an astonishing rate. Commander Raj Patel, initially skeptical of their mission, had become one of the kitten's most ardent advocates. She's been sharing knowledge about her people's technology, he reported. Some of it is centuries beyond our current capabilities. If we can understand even a fraction of it, it could revolutionize our own society. Sarah nodded, but a frown creased her brow. That's part of what worries me. The more I learn about the Lumina, the more I understand why some saw them as a threat. Their abilities, their technology. In the wrong hands, it could be devastating. A somber silence fell over the room. They all knew the risks they were taking. Harboring the last survivor of a species deemed too dangerous to exist put them at odds not just with the Galactic Council, but potentially with their own government. So what do we do? Dr. Tanaka asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Sarah stood, her resolve evident in her posture. We stay the course. Our mission now is twofold: protect and nurture this child, and find a way to preserve the knowledge and culture of her people. The Lumina valued wisdom and harmony above all else. We can't let that be lost to the universe. As the meeting adjourned, Sarah made her way back to the med-bay. The kitten was awake, her fur shimmering with patterns that Sarah was learning to recognize as contentment mixed with curiosity. Hello, little one, Sarah said softly, approaching the enclosure. We need to give you a name, don't we? A tendril of thought brushed Sarah's mind, carrying with it a sense of identity that was hard to put into words. It felt like starlight and music, and the quiet wisdom of ancient forests. Lyra, Sarah said suddenly, the name feeling right. It means small harp in an old Earth language, and it's also the name of a constellation, a group of stars. The kitten, Lyra, trilled happily, her fur lighting up with bursts of joyous color. The name felt right, a bridge between her lost home and her new family among the stars. As Sarah spent time with Lyra, she began to understand the true depth of Lumina communication. It wasn't just about conveying information or emotions. It was a sharing of experiences, of entire ways of thinking. One conversation left Sarah reeling. Lyra had shared her people's understanding of the universe, a perspective that made humanity's most advanced theories look like a child's crayon drawings. It's beautiful, Sarah breathed, her mind struggling to encompass what she'd seen, but also terrifying. No wonder some feared your people, Lyra. This kind of knowledge, it could change everything. Lyra's response was a complex tapestry of emotion and thought. Sarah understood that the Lumina had strict ethical codes governing the use of their abilities and knowledge. They believed in progress, but not at the cost of harmony and balance. As Sarah left the med bay that night, her mind was whirling with possibilities and dangers. The knowledge Lyra carried could elevate humanity to new heights, but it could also tear them apart if misused. The captain made her way to the observation deck, gazing out at the star-strewn vastness of space. The horizon was heading towards the fringes of known space, seeking a safe haven for Lyra and the precious legacy she carried. But as they journeyed further from Earth, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that their greatest challenges lay ahead. The universe, it seemed, was not yet ready to let the last Lumina slip quietly into obscurity. A soft chime from her communicator broke the silence. "Captain," Raj's voice came through, tense with concern. "We've picked up a transmission. It's the Galactic Council. They're asking about our detour to the Lumina homeworld." As Sarah left the med bay that night, her mind was whirling with possibilities and dangers. The knowledge Lyra carried could elevate humanity to new heights, but it could also tear them apart if misused. The captain made her way to the observation deck, gazing out at the star-strewn vastness of space. The horizon was heading towards the fringes of known space, seeking a safe haven for Lyra and the precious legacy she carried. But as they journeyed further from Earth, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that their greatest challenges lay ahead. The universe, it seemed, was not yet ready to let the last Lumina slip quietly into obscurity. A soft chime from her communicator broke the silence. "Captain," Raj's voice came through, tense with concern. "We've picked up a transmission. It's the Galactic Council. They're asking about our detour to the Lumina homeworld." Sarah's heart raced, but her voice remained steady. "Understood, Commander. Looks like our time in the shadows is coming to an end. Gather the senior staff. It's time to decide our next move." As she turned to leave, Sarah cast one last look at the stars. Somewhere out there was a future where Lyra and her people's legacy could thrive. It was up to them to find it, no matter the cost. The adventure was only beginning, and humanity's compassion would be tested against the cold calculations of a galaxy that had already written off the Lumina. But as Sarah felt a distant brush of warmth in her mind, Lyra, reaching out in her sleep, she knew that they were on the right path. For in saving this one small life, they were keeping alive something precious, the belief that every sentient being, no matter how different, deserved a chance to shine. Echoes of the past. The gentle hum of the Horizon's engines couldn't mask the tension that permeated the ship. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the head of the conference table, her eyes scanning the faces of her senior staff. The weight of their situation hung heavy in the air. "All right, people," Sarah began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "The Galactic Council is asking questions. We need to decide our next move, and we need to do it now." Commander Raj Patil leaned forward, his usually stoic expression marred by concern. "Captain, if we reveal the existence of Lyra, we're putting her at risk. The Council has already written off the Lumina as a lost cause." Dr. Yuki Tanaka nodded in agreement. Not to mention the scientific community would want to study her. She'd become a specimen, not a person. Sarah's jaw tightened. The thought of Lyra being treated as anything less than the sentient, feeling being she was made her blood boil. But they couldn't run forever. "What if," Zara Okonko, the tech specialist, interjected, "we use this as an opportunity? We've learned so much from Lyra already. Maybe it's time to show the galaxy what they almost lost." A thoughtful silence fell over the room. It was a risky proposition, but one that held potential. Lyra's been sharing more of her memories, Sarah said quietly. I think it's time we all understood exactly what's at stake here. With a nod to Dr. Tanaka, Sarah activated the neural interface they'd been developing. The lights dimmed, and suddenly, the conference room was awash in a sea of starlight and color. Through Lyra's memories, they saw the Lumina homeworld in its prime. Crystalline cities that sang with the thoughts of millions, vast archives of knowledge stored in patterns of light, and a society that had achieved a harmony humans had only dreamed of. But then came the darkness. They felt the fear and confusion as the first attacks came. The Lumina, a peaceful race, were unprepared for the brutality of war. Their cities fell, their songs silenced. In desperation, they reached out to the Galactic Council for help. The memory of the Council's response hit like a physical blow. Cold, calculating, the Lumina were deemed strategically irrelevant. Their pleas for aid were met with silence. As the last memory faded, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. The horror of what had been lost, the sheer waste of it all, was overwhelming. By all the stars, Raj whispered, his voice hoarse. How could they just leave them to die? Sarah's voice was steel when she spoke. They couldn't see past their own narrow definitions of value. The Lumina weren't warriors or resource-rich. In the Council's eyes, that made them expendable. Dr. Tanaka wiped her eyes, her scientific detachment crumbling in the face of such tragedy. But the knowledge they held, the advancements they could have shared with the galaxy, it's incalculable. Which is exactly why we can't let Lyra fall into the wrong hands, Zara added. But it's also why we can't keep her hidden forever. The galaxy needs to know what was lost, and what can still be saved. Sarah nodded, a plan forming in her mind. We're going to answer the Council's questions, but on our terms. We'll show them exactly what their indifference cost the galaxy, and we'll make damn sure they understand what's at stake if they try to take Lyra from us. As the meeting adjourned, Sarah made her way to the observation deck. Lyra was there, her small form silhouetted against the vast starfield. The kitten's fur rippled with deep blues and purples, colors Sarah had come to associate with melancholy. I'm sorry, little one, Sarah said softly, approaching. We had to see, to understand. Lyra turned, her luminous eyes meeting Sarah's. A wave of emotion washed over the captain. Sorrow, yes, but also a deep well of gratitude and something else. Hope. Through their growing bond, Sarah understood. Lyra wasn't just the last of her kind. She was a bridge, a living connection between what was lost and what could be. Her memories were a gift, a chance for her people's legacy to live on. Over the next few days, the crew worked tirelessly to prepare their response to the Galactic Council. They compiled data, prepared presentations, and steeled themselves for the fight ahead. But it was Lyra who provided the most powerful argument of all. As they prepared to transmit their response, Lyra insisted on being present. With Dr. Tanaka's help, she connected to the ship's communication array. What followed left even the most hardened crew members in awe. Lyra projected not just images or emotions, but entire symphonies of thought and memory. She showed the Council the true depth of what was lost when they abandoned the Lumina. Millennia of scientific advancement, art that could touch the soul across species boundaries, and philosophies that could reshape the very fabric of galactic society. But more than that, she showed them the cost of indifference, the terror of a child watching her world burn, the echoing silence of a civilization snuffed out in its prime. And through it all, a question burned. How many other wonders had the galaxy lost to fear, to apathy, to the cold calculus of strategic value? As the transmission ended, Sarah felt a mix of exhaustion and fierce pride. They had laid bare the truth, challenging the Council to confront the consequences of their actions. Now we wait, Sarah said, her hand resting gently on Lyra's back. The kitten's fur shimmered with a mix of anxiety and determination. Hours stretched into days as they awaited the Council's response. The crew was on edge, prepared for anything from a full military response to a desperate attempt at negotiation. What they received, however, was silence. As the seventh day dawned with no word from the council, Sarah called her senior staff together once more. "They're hoping we'll get nervous and make a mistake," Raj observed, his tactical mind working through the scenarios. Zara nodded in agreement. "Or they're debating whether to acknowledge us at all. Admitting they were wrong about the Lumina would undermine their authority. So we forced their hand," Sarah said, her eyes glinting with determination. "If they won't come to us, we'll go to them. Plot a course for the Galactic Council headquarters." A ripple of shock went through the room. It was a bold move, potentially suicidal. But as they looked at Lyra, peacefully curled up in her favorite spot by the star chart, they knew it was the right choice. They were no longer just a crew on a mission. They were the guardians of a legacy, the protectors of a future that could reshape the galaxy. And they would see that future realized, no matter the cost. As the Horizon changed course, setting off on its most daring journey yet, Sarah felt a brush of emotion from Lyra. It wasn't fear or worry, but a fierce, burning determination. The Kitten had lost one home to the indifference of the galaxy. She would not lose another. The stars streaked by outside, each one a silent witness to their passage. Somewhere ahead lay a confrontation that would determine not just Lyra's fate, but potentially the course of galactic history. Sarah squared her shoulders, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. They had truth on their side, and the living embodiment of a people the galaxy had written off as extinct. It was time to show the Council, and the galaxy at large, that humanity's compassion was a force to be reckoned with. For in saving Lyra, they weren't just preserving a single life or even a single species. They were fighting for the very soul of galactic civilization, a future where every sentient being, no matter how different, had value. The Horizon surged forward, carrying with it the hopes of a lost people and the determination of a crew who had found a cause worth any risk. The next chapter of their journey was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. Defying the odds. The Horizon dropped out of hyperspace with a shudder, the swirling vortex of faster-than-light travel giving way to the stark reality of normal space. Before them loomed Nexus Prime, the sprawling space station that served as the headquarters of the Galactic Council. Captain Sarah Chen felt her heart race as she took in the sight. Hundreds of ships from various species swarmed around the station like insects around a hive. Among them, she noted with growing unease, were several heavily armed patrol vessels. "Looks like they were expecting us," Commander Raj Patel observed grimly from his station. Sarah nodded, her jaw set in determination. "Hail the station, Zara. Let's see if they're in a talking mood." Before Zara could comply, alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple ships on an intercept course, Captain, Raj called out. "They're charging weapons." "Evasive maneuvers," Sarah ordered, her mind racing. This wasn't the reception she had hoped for, but she prepared for it. "Zara, broadcast on all frequencies. Make sure every ship out there hears us." As the Horizon danced between streams of energy weapons, Sarah's voice rang out across the communication channels. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. We come in peace, seeking audience with the Galactic Council on a matter of utmost importance. We have with us the last surviving member of the Lumina species, previously thought extinct. Any aggressive action against this ship risks the loss of invaluable knowledge and the final extinction of a sentient species. Stand down and let us dock." For a moment, the attack faltered. Sarah could almost feel the confusion rippling through the enemy fleet. She pressed her advantage. "To prove our claim, we will now transmit data gathered from our Lumina guest. Be warned, the following transmission contains high-level empathic content." With a nod to Dr. Tanaka, Sarah activated the neural interface they had prepared. Lyra, understanding the gravity of the situation, poured her heart and mind into the transmission. Across the attacking fleet, alien crews reeled as they were bombarded with memories, emotions, and knowledge from a civilization they had written off as lost. The sheer beauty and complexity of Lumina culture, the depth of their scientific understanding, and the horror of their near extinction hit home with devastating force. Weapons powered down. Ships halted their advance. In the stunned silence that followed, a new voice crackled over the comms. Earth Vessel Horizon. This is Council security. Stand by for docking instructions. The Council wishes to speak with you. A collective sigh of relief swept through the Horizon's bridge. They had made it past the first hurdle, but Sarah knew the real challenge was just beginning. As they docked with Nexus Prime, Sarah gathered her senior staff for one final briefing. "Remember," she said, her eyes meeting each of theirs in turn, "we're not just fighting for Lyra. We're fighting for the principles we believe in, that every sentient life has value, that knowledge and culture are worth preserving, and that the strong have a duty to protect the weak." Lyra, perched on Dr. Tanaka's shoulder, trilled softly. Her fur shimmered with a mix of anxiety and determination, mirroring the emotions of the human crew. The journey through Nexus Prime was tense. Aliens of all shapes and sizes stopped to stare at the human delegation, and especially at the shimmering kitten in their midst. Some gazes were curious, others hostile, but all were filled with a newfound respect tinged with fear. As they entered the vast council chamber, Sarah felt the weight of 100 alien gazes upon them. The council members, representing the most powerful species in the galaxy, sat in a towering semicircle before them. Their expressions were unreadable, but the tension in the air was palpable. High Counselor Zixnor, a being of swirling energy barely contained within a humanoid form, spoke first. "Captain Chen of Earth, you stand accused of violating Council directives, harboring a potentially dangerous life form, and threatening the stability of galactic peace. How do you plead?" Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady. "We plead the cause of justice, High Counselor. Justice for a species abandoned in their hour of need. Justice for a child who lost everything to the indifference of those sworn to protect. And justice for a galaxy that nearly lost a wellspring of knowledge and culture due to fear and short-sightedness." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Sarah pressed on, her words carried by the strength of her conviction. "We do not stand before you as accused, but as accusers. The Galactic Council failed in its duty. You turned your backs on a peaceful race, deeming them strategically irrelevant. In doing so, you not only condemned millions to death, but robbed the galaxy of advancements that could have benefited all." As Sarah spoke, Lyra stepped forward. The kitten's fur blazed with colors never before seen in the council chamber, her empathic abilities reaching out to touch the minds of those present. What followed was not just a presentation of facts, but an experience. Council members gasped and recoiled as they felt the terror of a dying world, the aching loss of an entire civilization snuffed out. But they also felt the soaring joy of discovery, the deep peace of a society in harmony with itself and its surroundings. Through it all, Sarah's voice provided context, painting a picture of what was lost and what could still be saved. The Lumina were not just another species, she concluded. They were the embodiment of what this council claims to stand for: peace, progress, and the betterment of all sentient life. In Lyra, we have a chance to preserve that legacy, to learn from it, and perhaps to forge a better future for all species. As the presentation ended, a heavy silence fell over the chamber. The council members shifted uncomfortably, the weight of their past decisions pressing down upon them. It was Counselor Vexelia, representative of a race known for their logic and foresight, who spoke first. The humans' words have merit. We may have acted hastily in our assessment of the Lumina. Perhaps we were wrong. The admission sent shockwaves through the chamber. Counselors argued amongst themselves, some calling for immediate action to protect Lyra, others warning of the dangers of admitting such a grievous error. As the debate raged, a new threat emerged. Alarms blared throughout Nexus Prime, and a harried aide burst into the chamber. "High Counselor, we're under attack. It's the Void Consortium." Sarah's blood ran cold. The Void Consortium, a shadowy group rumored to be behind much of the recent conflict in the galaxy. If they were here, they're after Lyra, she realized aloud. They must have intercepted our transmission. High Counselor Zixnor's form pulsed with agitation. Captain Chen, it seems our discussion must be postponed. If the consortium is truly here, we are all in grave danger. Sarah's mind raced. They couldn't fight their way out, not against the combined might of the consortium and potentially hostile council forces. They needed a plan, a way to protect Lyra, and show the galaxy the true value of the Lumina legacy. As if sensing her thoughts, Lyra let out a soft trill. The kitten's eyes met Sarah's, and in that moment, a plan formed between them, bold, dangerous, and perhaps their only hope. High Counselor, Sarah said, her voice ringing with authority. I have a proposal, one that will safeguard Lyra, neutralize the consortium threat, and demonstrate beyond any doubt the value of what the Lumina have to offer the galaxy. All eyes turned to her as Sarah laid out her daring plan. It was risky, potentially suicidal, but as she spoke, she saw a glimmer of hope kindle in the eyes of the council members. For the first time since arriving at Nexus Prime, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The odds were stacked against them, the enemy closing in, but they had one thing the consortium and their ilk would never understand: the power of compassion, the strength found in valuing all life. As the council chamber erupted into action, Sarah felt Lyra's paw on her hand. A wave of emotion passed between them: trust, determination, and a fierce hope for the future. Whatever came next, they would face it together, human and Lumina, united in a cause greater than themselves. The next few hours would determine not just their fate, but the fate of the galaxy itself. And Sarah Chen, captain of the Horizon, protector of the last Lumina, was ready for the fight of her life. A new beginning. The corridors of Nexus Prime echoed with the sounds of chaos. Alarms blared, orders were shouted, and the pounding of feet, human, alien, and mechanical, created a symphony of urgency. At the heart of this storm, Captain Sarah Chen ran, Lyra held securely in her arms. This way, Commander Raj Patel called out, gesturing toward a maintenance shaft. The senior staff of the Horizon, along with a contingent of Council security forces, piled in behind them. Sarah's plan was audacious, bordering on insane. But in the face of the Void Consortium's attack, it was their best hope, not just for survival, but for changing the course of galactic history. As they emerged into the central power core of Nexus Prime, Dr. Yuki Tanaka gasped. It's even more impressive than the schematic suggested, she breathed, taking in the swirling vortex of energy that powered the massive station. And more vulnerable, Zara Okonkwo added, her fingers flying over her datapad. The consortium's main force is only minutes away. We need to act now. Sarah nodded, setting Lyra down gently. Are you ready, little one? She asked softly. Lyra's fur shimmered with a kaleidoscope of colors: fear, determination, and a deep well of courage that belied her small size. She trilled once, the sound echoing with resolve. What you're proposing is unprecedented. High Counselor Zixnor's voice crackled through the comm. If it fails. It won't, Sarah interrupted, her voice steel. Lyra understands what's at stake. We all do. With a nod to Dr. Tanaka, Sarah activated the neural interface they had prepared. Lyra stepped forward, her small form dwarfed by the massive power core. As the interface hummed to life, the kitten's consciousness expanded, touching the very heart of Nexus Prime. The effect was immediate and awe-inspiring. The swirling energy of the core began to pulse with new colors, patterns of light dancing in configurations never before seen. Across Nexus Prime, systems began to rewrite themselves, guided by the intuitive brilliance of Lumina technology. It's working, Zara whispered, her eyes wide as she monitored the station's systems. She's integrating Lumina tech with the station's defenses. The consortium ships, they're being locked out. Outside, the attacking fleet found their weapons suddenly inert, Their navigation systems scrambled. Ships veered off course, colliding with each other as the pilots struggled to regain control. But Lyra wasn't finished. As her consciousness merged further with Nexus Prime, tendrils of energy reached out, touching the minds of everyone on the station. Council members, civilians, even the consortium infiltrators who had slipped aboard. What followed was beyond words. It was a symphony of thought and emotion, a sharing of knowledge and experience that transcended species boundaries. The terror of a dying world, the joy of scientific discovery, the deep peace of a society in harmony with itself, all of it washed over the inhabitants of Nexus Prime. In the council chamber, bitter enemies found themselves weeping together, overcome by the beauty and tragedy of the Lumina legacy. Consortium agents dropped their weapons, the weight of their actions suddenly, painfully clear. As the minutes ticked by, Sarah watched in awe as Lyra's form began to glow, her fur a swirling nebula of color and light. The kitten was pushing herself to her limits, using every ounce of her people's knowledge and power to protect her new family, and to show the galaxy what had nearly been lost. Finally, after what seemed like hours but was only minutes, the glow began to fade. Lyra stumbled, exhausted, and Sarah rushed to catch her. "You did it, little one," Sarah murmured, cradling the kitten close. "You saved us all." As the crisis subsided and the full impact of what had occurred began to sink in, the mood on Nexus Prime shifted. The council reconvened, but this time there was no debate about Lyra's fate or the value of the Lumina legacy. High Counselor Zixnor, his energy form pulsing with newfound humility, addressed the assembled representatives. "We stand humbled," he began, his voice carrying across the chamber. "In our arrogance, we nearly lost a treasure beyond measure. The Lumina, whom we abandoned, have saved us from our own short-sightedness." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Zixnor continued, "Captain Chen and her crew have shown us the true meaning of galactic citizenship. They risked everything to preserve a life, a culture that we had written off as expendable. In doing so, they have given us all a second chance." The Council's declaration was unanimous. Lyra would be protected, her status as the last Lumina enshrined in galactic law. But more than that, a new initiative was launched. The Lumina Legacy Project, dedicated to preserving and learning from the knowledge Lyra carried. As the Horizon prepared to depart Nexus Prime, now hailed as heroes rather than fugitives, Sarah found herself on the observation deck, Lyra curled contentedly in her lap. The kitten's fur shimmered with soft blues and golds, peace, happiness, and a sense of belonging. "Where to now, Captain?" Raj asked, joining her at the viewport. Sarah smiled, scratching Lyra behind the ears. "Everywhere," she replied. "We have a galaxy to explore, cultures to connect with. The Lumina valued knowledge and harmony above all else. I think it's time we honored that legacy by spreading it as far as we can." As the Horizon pulled away from Nexus Prime, its crew felt the weight of their new mission. They were no longer just explorers or even protectors. They were ambassadors of a new way of thinking, carriers of a torch that had nearly been extinguished. Lyra trilled softly, her mind brushing against Sarah's. The captain felt the kitten's excitement for the journey ahead, tempered by a bittersweet longing for the home she had lost. But there was something else too. A profound gratitude and love for the humans who had saved her, who had seen her value when the rest of the galaxy looked away. As the stars streaked by, heralding the beginning of their new adventure, Sarah reflected on how far they had come. They had set out to save one life and ended up changing the course of galactic history. It was a reminder of the power of compassion, of the strength found in valuing all life. The Horizon surged forward, carrying with it the last Lumina and a crew of humans who had redefined what it meant to be galactic citizens. Behind them, Nexus Prime glowed with new life, the first ripples of change spreading outward across the stars. And as they journeyed into the unknown, Sarah knew that this was only the beginning. The legacy of the Lumina, nearly lost, would now light the way toward a brighter future for all sentient beings. In saving Lyra, they had given the galaxy a second chance, a chance to learn, to grow, and to become something greater than the sum of its parts. The adventure was far from over. In fact, Sarah mused as Lyra purred contentedly in her lap. It was only just beginning.